Hello, this is Red Vitus, and welcome to my channel. Today I have a Elgin pocket watch. This is a running watch, and I might call this a practice watch. This movement was sent to me by a viewer of the channel who was getting into the watch repair hobby and just decided it wasn't for them. And this was one that, while running, its service history, well, certainly isn't known. Let's turn over the back of the watch. We see again a pretty good balance motion. The movement is brass, but it's gilded. There's varying opinions on this type of watch, whether this would make a good practice watch. I think it's just fine, especially if your goal is to familiarize yourself with the parts of a movement and to get some practice with disassembly and reassembly. So the watch is in pretty good condition. I don't really see much scratching on the plates. It's not missing any screws. Appears to have all the parts and is in working order. The regulator is a little bit off center, but not too bad. And it has both the case screws. So if I had a case for this watch, I could wear this watch around. Now, the reason that this may not be, or might not be considered a beginner watch would be if you are going for really fine tuning of the watch timing. I think this watch will keep decent time, but the reason is these train wheel bearings are brass instead of jeweled, so they tend to wear over time. And that, while that can be repaired, it does require some watchmaker tools to do that with. Someone starting in the watch repair hobby may not have all those tools. And this watch has already been running for about half an hour, so I'm going to take a look at it on the time grapher. And this watch is in decent condition. For a watch with only 7 jewels, I think it has, and probably hasn't been serviced in, likely in decades. It's running pretty well. You can see it's running fast from the time grapher, around 2.5 minutes fast. Not too bad. 230-degree amplitude is also good. We don't really know if that's the correct amplitude because I haven't checked on the lift angle. So these parameters may improve after the watch is cleaned, but this gives us a pretty good indication that I think this is a good candidate to work on. But yeah, let's take this watch apart. The first thing I'll do though is draw down the power on the mainspring. I'm going to take the hands off the movement. And with hand levers, slide those underneath the hands and they pry off. And we see that this watch has a dust ring. There it goes. I can work on removing the dial. So I see it's missing a dial screw. But this one is there. The dial is, you might be able to see that the dial is flush with the movement. So I can't use a tool to pry it off. In this case, they give you these holes where you can push the dial upwards. So I'll go around and try each one of these. There we go. Okay. And I think you can see the seconds hand was removed with the dial. I see there's some numbers written here. Here's a number 4 and a 35. Not sure what those mean. Okay, there went the dial washer. And now I can try to remove the cannon pinion. Probably not going to have much luck with a brass tweezer, but I'll give it a try. Okay, that came off. And I can see that there's a lot of movement with this center wheel pinion. So I'll have to close this hole. That's a task for later. But what I am going to do now is continue to remove some of the parts of the top plate. Cover plate here with 2 screws. Okay. Let's get off this plate. Okay. There we go. Minute wheel. The other parts here, this is the set lever spring. This large circular shaped deal. And there's a pin here, which is the set lever. We'll get a better look at the set lever from the other side. This piece here appears to be the yoke, and it has a spring. I think that is one part. And then of course here you have the winding pinion, and this is the clutch, which engages either the winding pinion to wind the watch or the minute wheel to set the watch, depending on the position of the pendant. This is, of course, a pendant set watch. There is no manually operated lever. Now I'm going to turn this movement around and continue the disassembly. Oh, I'd like to remove the balance and balance cock. The first thing I'd like to do, though, is separate the 2 parts, and I do that by loosening this screw, which is a stud screw. Okay. A little slippage there, unfortunately, but the screw is loosening. Okay. So I want to make sure they're lowered out of the hairspring is free of the regulator pins, and I think it is. So now I can remove the balance. I think the screwdriver is too small for this balance. Let me get a larger one. There we go. And I think this balance is going to come off just nicely without the balance. So there's the underside of the balance bridge. It has a serial number 08555 and serial number on the movement 08555. So they match. There you can see it now, I think. Let's take off this balance. There we go. Pivots look good. And I'm going to remove next the ratchet wheel. So this is the ratchet wheel screw. It's kind of loose. So this movement has very wide screwdriver slots, and my screws are just slipping and sliding around. Okay. Okay. So I can take this wheel off. Maybe. There it goes. There's the ratchet wheel and screw. The crown wheel in this watch is left-handed. How do I know that? I just know. So to loosen this watch, or to loosen this screw, I turn my screwdriver clockwise. And of course it's stuck. So I'm beginning to doubt whether this is a left-handed screw, and it is. Okay. Okay, so there's the crown. Sorry, the crown wheel. Now, look carefully. There is a bearing. I suppose it's called a bearing inside that wheel. So if I flip it over, I might be able to, there it goes. It came out. This little piece here is a bearing. Now next I'm going to remove the click. Going back to a smaller screwdriver. Let's try this one. The click should have a click spring, which I don't see, which probably means it's underneath the click. So I'm going to remove the click screw first. And is there going to be a surprise here? No, not too bad. So there we see is the click spring. It's kind of loosey-goosey. Looks like that screwdriver, or that screw, is loose. Let's just see if we can tighten it. I wonder if it's, could be a stripped threading. Okay, no, it was just loose. Okay. So we take out every part. This is probably going to be the smallest screw in this watch. Come on, get out, get out. There we go. This is the barrel bridge. Okay. And here I need to pry it up. I'm probably going to have to remove these two case screws. So let's take care of these, just in case they are blocking, or just in case they're holding it together. Sometimes these case screws can be extra bridge screws. Okay, all right. Okay. Go. Okay. Now I want you to look under here. This is the set lever. Now I can remove the center wheel. Okay. And this set of gears is for winding and setting the watch. They should lift out. Okay. Now we have 3 gears here. Let's get this. So again, there's the clutch. Yep. The other way. Okay. Can you see it? There we go. There's the clutch. And there is the winding pinion. Now this, of course, is the barrel. The barrel holds the mainspring, which powers the watch. Okay. Both bridges away. Now here is the fourth wheel. Always got to check and see whether I'm in focus or in the camera focus. Okay, there's the fourth wheel. Let's see, there's the third wheel. And then here's the escape wheel. Looks like a brass escape wheel. The finer movements would usually have a steel fourth wheel. But these work just fine. Okay, one last piece of the escapement. This is the pallet fork. I'll remove the pallet bridge. It's one screw. It looks like the pallet fork is going to be lifted up with, oh no, I thought it was going to be lifted up with the bridge, but there it came off separately. Keep those parts together. Okay, one last time. Matching serial number 08555. Okay. Okay, here comes the pallet. See both pivots intact. And also I need to, when this is clean, I'll inspect these pallet jewels to make sure there's no chipping or other damage. I may have some difficulty removing this set lever because the spring is still attached on the other side. My method is to loosen the screw just a little bit and release any residual tension on the spring like so. Now I can remove the screw and spring without fear. Okay, there we go. Sometimes the spring still has some tension on it, even though the screw is removed. But yeah, not a problem there. One more screw to remove. That's this shipper screw, yoke screw. This should be a right-handed thread, and it is. Okay, here we go. And this should, with any luck, just lift off. There we go. I like these parts where the springs and the part are one piece. It just makes keeping track of items a lot easier. Now I can flip the movement over, remove this set lever. Okay, lift up the set lever. All right, now, other than some balance jewels, this watch is completely disassembled. Not too bad, really. Yeah, there's some dirt, but it's in good condition. You know, I'm doubting whether I can actually improve the performance much. I mean, I know I need to close this hole or this bushing. Not sure how bad the other bearings are, but let's go after them with some pegwood first. some of that old grimy oil out. Loosen it up. That'll help the cleaning machine. Filthy. The bushings were filthy. All right. A lot of witness marks on this balance jewel. Seems unnecessary. Seems excessive. All these witness marks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. One's enough. I guess maybe that's what these numbers represent. 35. Okay. All right. Off to the cleaners. Reassembly begins with the installation of the mainspring, which I did off camera. And here I'm showing the gear train assembly. Starting with the escape wheel and then the fourth wheel. Here's the third wheel. And the center wheel, or second wheel. And barrel. This is the setting lever. Now the winding pinion and sliding pinion. And the barrel bridge. I speed up the video for screws. Everything else is in real time. Always good to test the gear train. Since this next shot came out blurry, I'll just mention that this is an Elgin grade 311. Don't think I mentioned that at the beginning. It is a 12 size 7 jewel watch. Now, this model was produced in the 1910s. This was a fairly highly produced watch, a low grade in that did not have any jewels in the gear train, but this was a watch that one could buy, and I'm sure that at the time it was an option that was more affordable to many people. And other than the lack of jewels and no adjustments, I think this watch has the potential, at least, to run very well since it's in good condition. The crown wheel completes assembly of the winding gears. Here it's a left-handed screw. Now back in focus. The last assortment of springs and setting gears goes into place. This is the clutch lever, sometimes called the yoke. the set lever spring. Testing the motion, and it looks fine. A drop of oil, and then I install the cannon pinion and minute wheel. I place a drop of oil on the pallets before assembly. The pallet cock. This is the top balance cap jewel that I'm oiling. I decided to add a little more. And I always check for the bubble of oil in the jewel to make sure it's oiled properly. This is also a good time to check for imperfections, cracks in the jewel. And although there was an inclusion, nothing that would impact the performance. Reassembling the balance is always a delicate task. Takes off right away. With the balance cock screwed in, this is the motion in real time, and this is slow motion. Very good rotation on the balance. Now on the timing machine, all the parameters have improved, but I haven't regulated it yet. And after some regulation, I'll test the movement in different positions. This is pendant up. Next position, dial down. Make that dial up. Amplitude increases because there's less friction in this position and more power transmitted to the balance. Now here's dial down. Now remember, this watch left the factory with no adjustments about 100 years ago. And this is probably as rigorous, or maybe even a more rigorous test than it was given. So with the watch performing well, I'm going to replace the hour wheel. And this is the dial washer. This prevents the hour wheel from moving out of position when it's with the dial installed. This is the clean dial. Now back on. And the dust ring, don't forget to put this back on before you case the watch. It's very easy to forget. Now I received this watch without a case. Managed to find an old stock case that fit this watch perfectly. And that was nice because this watch this case never had a movement. And this watch probably had a case at one point, but that's long gone. And now this watch can be worn again. So lastly, replacing the hands. This is the minute hand, and I'll line that up at 12. Next, I'll just test the setting. And this is to check that the hands don't touch. Now I'm replacing the seconds hand. And this watch is complete. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you've enjoyed this, this servicing of an Elgin Grade 311. I want to thank everyone for supporting my channel. If you like the content, give it a like, give it a thumbs up. And if you'd like to receive announcements, news from the channel, go ahead and click subscribe. This has been Red Vitus. Thanks again for visiting my channel, and I hope you come back.